Hi, everyone. I'm Mindy Egan, and I'm super excited to introduce to you the March 2025 release from Concord and Ninth. The Artisan Petals Turnabout stamp set creates a beautiful floral background for your paper crafting projects. Now, you can stamp it one, two, three, or four times to get a full design. Also included in this stamp set are some individual images and sentiments. Now, these images also match the images in the Turnabout stamp, and there are coordinating dies for them. On the back of the packaging, you get examples of what it would look like, and that's a great inspiration starting point. You also get a transparency guide to help you align your turnabout in your stamping positioner. Here's a look at the individual images stamped out and also the sentiments. So we have things like I sure do love you, you deserve the best, let's celebrate, thanks for everything, you are simply amazing. And then the die set also has these two word dies with a shadow layer. You're so wonderful and love you lots. Now, here's a look at a couple backgrounds that I created, but of course, you can go more full on spring colors with these beautiful spring flowers to really brighten up your project, but have fun experimenting with different color combinations. The coordinating dies included in the set not only cut out the individual images stamped out, but they can also cut out the images on your turnabout stamped background. So, in my experience, let's say you stamped a background you weren't super happy with all of the colors. What you can do is take that coordinating die and die cut out the flowers you do like from that background. So here are some that I die cut out of backgrounds that I just wasn't quite happy with, and I can use those in other projects. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to stamp this out. I have a piece of white cardstock that is 4¼ by 5½. I already lined up my turnabout stamp set with the turnabout jig and the transparency guide. There is a video walking you through exactly how to do that. The first color I'm stamping is using Nectar ink. Now I'm going to turn my turnabout jig so it has a number 2 up in the top right hand corner, and I'm going to ink it up a second time using grapefruit ink. Now, because the order I'm going with my colors, I'm not cleaning my stamp set in between each of these, but if you are switching colors, you do want to clean your stamp set in between those. So I turned my jig so it has the number 3 in the top right corner. This time I am stamping with sorbet. Now, this time I am cleaning my stamp set because I'm going to be switching to avocado. So I turned my jig one more time so I have the number 4 in the top right hand corner, inked that up with the avocado ink, and now I have this beautiful full panel floral background. I can just carefully pop that up from my jig, and now I have a background ready to go. So there are my two backgrounds using the exact same colors. It's just one is freshly stamped, so it looks a little darker. This is another color combination I did. And then here is a card project that I completed. The colors I used are ballet slippers, watermelon, harbor, and blueberry. I trimmed that down and added that to a panel of blueberry cardstock die cut with the postage die from the Seaside Post collection, and then just simply heat embossed a sentiment off of the Artisan Petals Turnabout stamp set on blueberry cardstock and trimmed that down. Now, here is another card that I created. And for this one, I used the individual stamped and die cut out floral images to create kind of a swag down here at the bottom. The greenery I added from the Chicken Chatter stamp set. My background is ink blended with watermelon and creamsicle ink, and then ran through and die cut it with the double stripe card front to give it those striped looks. I have a sentiment there in the center, which is off of this Artisan Petals stamp set. And I used kind of an oval die off of the plain amazing die set, which is a really fun look. And then my last card that I have here for you is stamping the turnabout onto blueberry cardstock with a blueberry ink. So I did kind of a tone on tone look for the background. The sentiment, I have just a die cut circle and stamped that sentiment right in the center and added a couple stripes at the bottom. And there is your closer look at the Artisan Petals Turnabout stamp set and die. Welcome to the introduction to Bright Blossoms stamp set and die. This set has a small coordinating die with some sentiments and then a large cover plate die where you can kind of paper piece your images to create your full panel card front. It also has some individual flowers and leaves if you want to do some layering, and then also a die cut out sentiment. The back of the packaging has some inspiration to get you started, and we'll take a closer look at the sentiment set and the dies. The sentiments included in this set is the hello, I'm so grateful for you. You brighten my day, and the die cut out proud of you. And as I mentioned, we have some individual dies for you to create your card projects with or layer them on top of your full panel card design. And I have some tips for you in creating that. You are going to want to die cut that front panel from multiple shades of cardstock. And what I like to do is once I die cut it, I'm going to pick it up or put some press and seal on the back to hold everything in place. These are some leftover pieces. So, for instance, I used the honeycomb for some centers on a flower, and then the one on the right is just from plain white cardstock. But there's still so much left on these that I can use. I like to use the press and seal because it's keeping everything in place, which makes it super easy to realign everything up on my card front. So you can see I can just peel it up. And when you start putting this together, you are going to want to start with a 4¼ by 5½ inch piece of cardstock and then start with that bigger piece, your main background piece. You're going to want to layer that down first. And then I kind of like to work from that top left hand corner with the big piece and then work my way around in a clockwise fashion. I also suggest attaching that bigger back panel piece with a tape runner. So that way, if you need to kind of readjust things, because it can be a tight fit, you do have that wiggle room. Now, here is a card I created, and the cardstock that I started out with for that back panel is lilac cardstock. So, before I removed that lilac cardstock from my press and seal, I took the Dots and Blossoms stencil pack. I used the dots out of it and ink blended over the entire panel of lilac cardstock. For the flowers that I die cut out of fig and the leaves out of avocado, before removing them from my press and seal, I did some ink blending so I could really add some dimension to those flowers. And then after paper piecing the entire panel together, I'm able to stamp one of those sentiments onto my card front, which fits perfectly in that open space. Now, I was able to use those leftover flowers from that stencil panel that I did. So here my flowers have some polka dots on them, which is a really fun look. And I just kind of added some leaves in there with some sprout cardstock, ink blended with a little bit of sprout ink to add that dimension. Then I can take those flowers and arrange them how I want to on the front of a card. So you don't have to always use the design that's laid out in that die. You can arrange these flowers in different areas on your card. And this one, I finished off with a large sentiment from the Perfectly Tied stamp and die set, and then placed that over the center of my panel. So if you love paper piecing or puzzles, this is going to be a great die set for you. And that is the Bright Blossoms stamp set and die available now over at Concord and Ninth. Welcome to the introduction to Chicken Chatter stamp set and die. This collection is going to be great for any Easter or spring cards, or if you are down on the farm. We have some stamp layering images and also die layering images. And there are many ways that you can mix and match your colors. Here's a look at some of the images that are stamped and layered out. So we have a couple foliage pieces, some word bubbles that say hi and hello, sentiments such as congrats, happy Mother's Day, you're one cool chick. And then for the hens, you can leave the white space like I did on that first hen, or you can use the stamp layering image to add a darker shade to it. You have some fun chicks that you can do kind of on their own, or there is one that is inside an eggshell, and then also the cute little chicken feet, which die cut out separately. So there are coordinating dies for all of the images. Now, if you want to add a pop of dimension to your card, you can use the die set to create the layered look. So it's a very similar look to what is on the stamp set, except you have them die cut out of colored cardstock and layered together. You can change the color of your chick. We also have a bandana that can go around it. We have a cute little bow tie that can go on a chickie. There is also a flower, some leaves, a heart. There is a sentiment high, so you can use that on your card. And then have a happy day, which is a die cut word and shadow layer. Now, for some of my images that I either stamped out or I die cut out, I used a little bit of Tide Pool and Juniper, maybe some in sea glass. I also have some of them in like a spice cider and cayenne, I believe are some of the colors that I used just for some really fun earthy looks. When I was playing with this die set, I immediately thought of a background that Concord and Ninth had previously released a while back, and that is the honeycomb quilt top. So this one kind of creates like I was thinking of chicken wire in the background. I did die cut that, I believe, out of Tide Pool cardstock. And I have a hen just sitting there on the center. I used some of the foliage to come out from the sides. And then I added a couple clouds there, and that was from the Plain Amazing die set. And that one I just used a Happy Mother's Day sentiment, which is also off of this Chicken Chatter set. The next card I have is using that honeycomb quilt top die set again. This time, I believe I have honeycomb cardstock. Again, added those clouds from the Plain Amazing die set. I have the chicken down there with that fun bandana, and I love the pop of white. And I think for the underlying layer of this chicken or hen, I used, I believe, pebble cardstock. And then that fun die cut sentiment at the top is created with Tide Pool and Juniper cardstock. So, really fun set that you can use for multiple occasions and really great for creating some fun small little scenes. And that is your closer look at Chicken Chatter stamp set and die. These products are now available at Concord and Ninth. Welcome to the introduction to Easter greetings dies. In this collection, you are getting two Easter greetings with a shadow layer. So, first we have an elegant Easter blessings, and then we have kind of this more fun font of Happy Easter. Both of these work well on an A2 size card front, whether it be in portrait or in landscape orientation. And you can use the die cut words on their own or paired with the shadow layer. The first card project I have to share with you is using that more fun Happy Easter font, and I paired it with the Chicken Chatter set, which I thought was super cute to put it with these three little chicks. I have one that's in that cracked egg. I also have a large speech bubble, and that's from the Rosie Lane Dies collection. I did also stencil on some polka dots onto Tide Pool cardstock. For the other Easter greeting, which is Easter blessings, it was a very elegant script, and I thought it paired nicely with the Bright Blossoms set. So here I have Easter blessings that is die cut out of the champagne metallic cardstock. And then for my flowers, I have that out of nectar and the leaves out of avocado. I also thought that the Easter blessings, being that it's a little bit larger, fit nicely in that open area of the Bright Blossom set. And that is the introduction to the Easter greetings dies. Welcome to the introduction to Mixtape Rewind stamp set and dies. This really fun set is very nostalgic and takes me back. And I'll tell you, I had so much fun creating with it. So, what this creates is a cassette tape. You have lots of dies in here to decorate your cassette tape, plus the stamp set to put your title of your cassette tape on there, which in turn will be your greeting. So let's take a closer look at those greetings. First, you have some lines at the top, which is for the top of your cassette tape, and I'll show you that in a moment. We have thank you, hey friend, you're my jam, happy birthday, take time to unwind, and then you can do you're a hit or you are number one. And then you have A and B, so you can put A or B on there for the side of your tape. For the coordinating die set, we have the die at the top there is kind of your outline to really build up and customize your cassette tape. There's the inside pieces to decorate it in various colors. We have music notes, we have a You Rock sentiment. There's also some hearts on there. And some additional dies that we have is for you to be able to create an actual cassette note card and a pocket card. There's also a die. The die itself actually creates six small cutout pieces. Here that I'm pointing to, I die cut them out of multiple shades of cardstock to decorate the edge of my cassette tape. So one of the pieces I want to show you first is the actual piece to create a note card, and this will give you a shape card. On the actual piece, the die will provide some scored lines. Now, I'm trying to get my camera to focus. It didn't really want to focus here, but there is a center line to score to fold it in half. And there's also some score lines in you, and that's going to help with the alignment for the center piece of your cassette tape and also the three lines on the side. So all you'll need to do is just fold that in half and reinforce that fold with a bone folder, and that's going to create your shape card. Now, if you just want to have the cassette on the front of your card and not have it be a shape card or a note card, You could just trim that right along that score line. So now I'm going to show you how these pieces would layer together to actually create the cassette tape. I did speed up this part of the video, but it's going to be really easy to follow along with once you get the feel of what each of the pieces do. Now, all of these off on the left-hand side, I just have tacked down onto cardstock with repositionable tape. So I'm just going to remove them and I'm adding some liquid glue behind them to attach them to the front of the note card. All I'm doing is taking those 3 lines, lining them up with the score lines on my note card, and then attaching them. You are going to want to do these strips first. Then you can put your outline of your cassette tape down, lining up those center holes and the edges of the cardstock. We have 3 pieces that we're going to use to decorate the middle of our cassette tape. The first one there, the small one, is our actual tape. And then we have 2 additional pieces. These are going to line up behind each other. And there are little etched lines on here as well to help you line up your tape. So this one's going to go on kind of those spiral pieces. And then we have the piece that's going to layer on top to give it that outline. And this is going to line up over those score lines that are on that white cardstock. And then that bottom piece to add definition to our cardstock, which is also really fun to pop up with some thin foam squares. Creating this brought back so many memories of all the different kinds of cassette tapes that I had. So I had a lot of fun putting this together with these bright colors. I used sweet pea, lemongrass, and aqua sky for those stripes. Now, remember back to our stamp set, we have those 2 lines, and those you would stamp in the open area of your cassette tape. You could also do a sentiment, the thank you, the hey friend, all fit in there. Now we'll take a look at the pocket that you can put this shaped note card in. So this is another die on the set. There are scored lines on there. All you need to do is fold that in half once again, reinforce that with a bone folder, and then you have 2 flaps that you're going to want to fold in and reinforce those folds as well. I'll then add a little bit of liquid glue to the inside of those flaps and then just fold the bigger flap over. And what I like to do is just place something heavy on it and let that sit for a minute or two. The liquid glue is a nice strong adhesive and holds up really well for this. Then we can take our cassette note card and it fits perfectly inside. I think this is also a great way to present a gift card or maybe a little bit of money tucked in there, depending on the time of year, if you have maybe birthday or graduation. Now we're going to take a look at some projects that I created with this. So first I have one of those pockets and I did the U-Rock on the front. The U-Rock also has kind of that cascading shadow layer behind it. And all I did was put strips of cardstock down and then die cut the shadow out of that striped cardstock that I created. Then I can pull out my cassette tape and once I have a color combination that I really love, I kind of stick with it. So right now I'm really hooked on the sweet pea, lemongrass, aqua sky, and I also threw in buttercup once in a while. We also have those fun music notes, which I used on this card. So in the background, I have the sunburst card front die to have those rays kind of coming out of the center. And then for my cassette tape, so remember the piece that folded in half that is white that we layered our cassette on? Well, with that white cardstock, I ink blended on it with sweet pea, buttercup, and aqua sky, and then attached all of my pieces to give it that really fun blended look. And then I just filled in around it with different colors of hearts and music notes. This is another cassette that I created, and this time I did the word hit up at the top there. So I stamped Oceanside onto Aqua Sky cardstock. I figure with that one, I can put it on a card front and do the your at the top. And then here's another pocket that I did. So I just had a lot of fun doing the different sentiments. This one is take time to unwind. Did some cardstock strips on the front of that pocket and a sentiment that says, You're my jam. So I just had a lot of fun with this color scheme and this particular set because this was right in my wheelhouse. And that's a closer look at the Mixtape Rewind stamp set and dies, which are now available at Concord and Ninth. Welcome to the Introduction to Perfectly Tied Stamps, Dies, Stencils, and Embossing folder. This bundle includes a small sentiment stamp set with a few additional images. We also have a 2-piece stencil. There is an embossing folder so you can use that with your stencil or on its own, and then a coordinating die for sentiments and also the bows. So first, let's take a closer look at the sentiments on this stamp set. First, we have a beautiful day, Happy birthday to you, hip hip hooray, and you're so lovely. There's also a single bow, a small bow, and a couple hearts. There are coordinating dies for the bows, hearts, and sentiments. Then for the embossing folder and the stencil, you can emboss your panel with the embossing folder and then go over the top with the two-piece layering stencil. In the coordinating die, it does have dies to cut out certain bows on this background. And you can do that on just the stenciled panel. If you decide to do it after your panel is embossed with the embossing folder, you may lose some of that dimension that the embossing folder provides. So you might want to die cut your pieces first and then place them into your embossing folder like a puzzle piece and then add the embossed details. Here's a panel where I just used the stencil and then the coordinating die to die cut out the bows. Now I'll show you how this would work. So you would take a piece of cardstock. I have white cardstock from Concord and Ninth measuring 6 by 6. I'm going to just feel which side of the embossing folder that I want to use. And then I'm going to take the cardstock and spritz it with some water. That's just going to help loosen the fibers of the paper and help minimize the cracking. Now I'm placing this in the embossing folder and then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine with the recommended sandwich for my particular machine. Then as I pull it out, we have a beautifully embossed panel, and you can use either side, the embossed or the debossed side. And it creates kind of all the fun detail of the bows, like the loops and the little marks of where your knot is tied. So just a lot of great detail in this embossing folder. Then I'm going to work with layering the stencil over the top of this. So it is a two-piece stencil. The first layer of the stencil kind of gives you more color of the bows. The second layer kind of adds the darker shadows inside the tied bows. So I just temporarily tacked my cardstock down to my work surface, placed the first layer of the stencil over the top, and it really kind of just fits into place like a puzzle piece. So I ink blended with a lilac ink, and then I'm lining up the second layer of the stencil. Again, it's going to really kind of fit in like a puzzle piece, and you can also just eyeball it too. You'll see where it's going to line up with your previous layer. And for that one, I did fig ink. So on this panel, I had it where the light color was kind of more the prominent color. And on the panel on the right-hand side, I had it where the darker color was more of the prominent color. Either way works really great and looks beautiful. Now we'll take a look at some card projects that I created. So for this panel, I did a rainbow blend across my stencil background. I did also use the embossing folder to add all of that extra detail in the bows. I had it trimmed down and added to a card front created with, I believe that was cobblestone cardstock. And now on this one, I created my own presents. So I trimmed out some squares and rectangles using different shades of cardstock. I think that was nectar, maybe some sorbet and juniper. I added the dots stencil over the top and then added my bows to the top of it. So it makes a great maybe birthday, anniversary, wedding kind of card to create your own presents. And I love that there are coordinating dies for the sentiments, so I could pop those over the top to add even more dimension. And that is your introduction to the perfectly tied stamp, stencil, embossing folder, and die set, available now at Concord and Ninth. Thanks for watching.